Hi there, Nimble Superman back again. I thought I would do another video, just talking about random things, reviewing random things, and I thought it was time that I kind of put up a video talking about my thoughts on the death of Superman and that whole saga that happened in the 90s and how I feel about it. Anybody who doesn't know me and knows that I'm a huge Superman fan, and to be honest, I really love this whole saga of Death of Superman. I think it's like one of the great moments in Superman history, which is ironic because it's his death, you know. Um, but the reason I think it's so good is that it's like it's not about him dying. You know, it's not about that. It's more about the importance of Superman and why he's so important to us in our lives. You know, like because it's in three parts. You know, I don't know if I want to make this an informative video or or I guess just a recommendation. You know, the thing about this story, you know, it starts off with Death of Superman. The thing about this story is, I wouldn't say it's very new reader friendly. I think, I think that's that's the real downside of it. It's not new reader friendly. And when I first read it, I was a little bit lost because I wasn't so familiar with the general Superman history like I am now. Um, but I wasn't completely lost either. You know, like if you just have a general idea of what happens in the story, you know, I think you'd be okay. Um, it's in three trades. The first one, obviously, Death of Superman. And the first trade, it's really, you know, the death of Superman. It's, you know, Doomsday, you know, kicking everybody's ass, like with the Justice League at that time. And they're actually reprinting the trades of Justice League that was of the Justice League at that time. And those trades are really cool, too. But that's what the first trade is. There's not a whole lot other than the battle with Doomsday going on in this trade. Now, the art is really fantastic. It really sells this whole drama of what they were doing with it. And, you know, the thing about Death of Superman, because there's this fantastic documentary, you know, you can find it online. I think Warner's has actually put it online. But it was this documentary they put together with the Superman Doomsday DVD or, you know, Blu-ray at this point. But it was like, it's on the DVD if you buy it. And it's this really nice documentary talking about how the whole Death of Superman came to be and things like that, and how they approached how to kill Superman. And they wanted a physical force. And gosh, you know, that's what I want to see with Superman stories. I know it's a really kind of dumb thing to say because it's like Superman's so powerful. You know, like why would you want him to go against like physical foes, you know? It's because I really love action-packed stories. I love seeing heroes fight bad guys. You know, I love that concept. And, you know, the thing about Superman is, you know he's going to win a battle, but it's like Spider-Man, you know that he's going to win a battle with Doc Ock, but, like, you still love to see it. You know, you never get tired of it. You know he's going to beat him, but it's that same kind of idea, you know? So I really love physical threats with Superman. And Doomsday is one of my favorite characters, man. Like I love that he can be the savage beast, but I love when they take him in a direction where they give him like consciousness and they can get him to talk. Like the version of Doomsday in the DC animated universe, I thought was fantastic, man. Like because you take the idea of Doomsday, he's still very much the same thing where he hates Superman and that kind of thing, but he's just able to express that, you know, in words. And he's not just the complete savage beast. Because when he's a complete savage beast, it's like, okay, he's a cool character. He's not that bad. But when he's consciousness and he's able to relate and talk about how he hates Superman and that kind of thing, it just elevates him, I think. And hatred is a really strong motivator for a villain, and it just never gets old. This is fantastic, man. Like again, I think new readers would be a little bit lost, especially with Supergirl. because you got to remember this story took place, I think, in the early '90s. Yeah, like really early '90s. I think this took place, and Supergirl at that time wasn't our fun-loving generic Kryptonian Supergirl. Uh, it was the Matrix Supergirl, and I'm gonna be honest. I don't know enough about her history to really educate people, but she was like a shapeshifter, and it was just a really weird time for Supergirl, to be honest. Like it was just really weird. Like I'm really yeah. Here we go. Like you'll probably end up seeing that, you know, and you'll think, gosh, what the heck is going on here? Doomsday is like punching Supergirl's face, like, and it's like getting smushed. Like, what the heck is that? It's just little things like that. But I think if you can just get past that, and you'll really come to love that story. It's just lots of cool stuff. I think the emotion was just so strong here. I really love the fact that they went for a physical threat, because you really feel like Superman just barely holding on, and really being heroic, and really just trying to do the best he can to take this guy out. Um, I don't like how the fight ended. Because they kind of punch each other at the same time. And that doesn't really work for me. you know. But it was more of the idea of they just push each other both to the limit. You know. I kind of liked it a little bit more in Superman Doomsday, where he kind of took a Doomsday really up in space and then kind of slammed him back down. That was cool, but it didn't make any sense why he chose Metropolis to slam him back down in. But just do something different other than them punching each other. So for the first trade, like, obviously it's a staple for any Superman collector. Honestly, like, you got to have it. But for the whole idea of like really getting into the story, and appreciating what made it so good, you don't really need to buy this. If you're somebody who wants to experience the whole Death of Superman, because it's kind of three parts. It's the first part, Death of Superman. You get the second part, World Without a Superman, and then you get the third part, The Return of Superman, with the reign of Superman, and of Supermen, and that kind of thing. So if you really are just kind of low on money, and you just want to get into this story, you might be able to just skip right to World Without a Superman, and the Return of Superman, and that kind of thing. So it just depends. But if you're somebody who money is not an obstacle, man, you could just buy all of them and just enjoy the hell out of it. It's also important to note that DC is reprinting these stories, except instead of it being a trilogy, because the third book is significantly larger than the other two. They got it in 4 trades. So I don't know if that works out to be cheaper or more expensive. I'm not sure. I think there's a big omnibus of it too. So I guess, it's up to you guys and how you want to collect it or whatever. The second part, World Without a Superman, gosh, I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to, Like, because here's the thing, like, I was a Superman fan for a while. I was reading a good few Superman stories. But the reason I held back from reading the whole Death of Superman saga was because I felt like I knew what happened. Like, I knew, about the reign of the Superman. I knew how they came to be. I knew Superman died, and I knew Superman came back. And I felt like, okay, why do I need to read that, And eventually you get to that point when you're reading Superman stories where it's just like, well, you gotta read the next one. And this was the next one, and I enjoyed this so much more than I ever thought I was going to. Because when you think about it, like, at face value, like, Superman's dead, he comes back, who cares what happens in between? What this book, World Without a Superman, does is it really just, like, gosh, I'm losing my train of thought here, but it really explores, Uh, Gosh, hold on. Sorry, I lose my train of thought. But it explores like why we love Superman, what Superman meant to the world. And what made this story so good was they made the people living in that world um, us in reality. In reality, everybody was really suffering. When Superman died, everybody was just like, "This is just terrible." He's like the world's greatest hero. What do you think happened to the people, the characters who actually knew this guy? And it really explores that, and just so expertly. I think that's the key word here. You could tell these people who were writing the Superman books at that time, they just understood that character. They understood that world. They understood what Superman meant to them, and how to handle it. Like, because the thing about Superman is like they've said in the documentary, it's not the first time that like anybody's ever killed Superman, but this is really the first time when they really killed him, and it was with this sense of that he's really gone, and you really feel that, you really experience that. There's so many great moments here. You get Bibbo in the bar. You get Martha and Lois. You get a little bit of Batman. You get a bit of him. Because the thing about Batman to me is like they're best friends. Batman and Superman, they're best friends. So like obviously that would affect him. It's just really good in my opinion. It's like when you look at the trilogy, you would think this would be the weak link, but it's really not. It's maybe even the strongest of it all. It's just super fantastic, man. I highly recommend it. And then the third trade, this was the one that it's funny. I was dreading reading this because I thought this was just going to be a complete snooze fest, you know. And it was the return of Superman. I really thought this was going to be a complete snooze fest because, like, when you think about the idea of the story, it's like, okay, Superman dies, we mourn for him, and then there's these apparently four Supermen that like there might be the next Superman, and and as the reader, you're kind of being like, oh, is this guy the next Superman, and this kind of thing. Obviously, we can look at it now and say, well, obviously these people aren't Superman. Like, what are we even doing? But you have to, like, I think to really truly experience and like this story, you kind of have to put yourself in the frame of mind of a reader at that time. And readers at that time, they didn't know when Superman was coming back. They didn't know if he was coming back. Now, I'm pretty sure they knew he was coming back because, obviously readers at that time, they weren't dumbasses, but they just didn't know what was going to happen with the story. They didn't know Cyborg was Hank Henshaw and all this kind of stuff. So once I was able to put myself in the mind of a reader at that time, I was really enthralled with it. I was really into it, like the stuff with Mongol and then taking out Coast City and stuff with the Eradicator, and like I was really enthralled with it. Like, there's not many books that like when I read that like I just can't put down and I'm just totally just flipping right through them. Especially this one where it was so big. I think I read it all in one sitting, which is very, very not common for me. Like I usually can't read big stories all at once. Yeah. Um, I don't know much else to say about this, man. Like it's just really cool. You get the Eradicator, you get Superboy. I didn't like Superboy as much depicted in this because again, early '90s, um, dialogue writing was a lot different back then. And especially for young people at that time in comics, like writing for young people in comics. He comes off as a real douchebag, like to the point where it's just like, you can't even like him at all. you know, I love I think one of the biggest criticisms about this story is how Superman comes back. and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of confusing and it's kind of convoluted. Um, I'm okay with it. I can't say that like it's the dumbest idea, you know. I mean, he obviously had to come back. This is just one of the ways he could come back, and I'm glad they did it that way. It's also funny that this was a time when Superman had long hair when he came back, and it's also cool because there's kind of hints that like Henry might come back with long hair for a little bit in Justice League, which I think would be really cool. I would totally be game for that, you know. And this book, it's got like one of my favorite like Superman moments too. Um, you know, obviously we're getting into spoiler territory here, but I think, you know, anybody watching this video, you already know what's going to happen. But it's this part at the end where he finally confronts Cyborg Superman. Like, Superman comes back and finally confronts him. And it seems like, you know, Cyborg's got him, you know? He's going to douse him with this shit ton of, like, kryptonite and that. But Eradicator comes in at the last second and, you know, changes the consistency of the kryptonite and makes it so it empowers Superman. And then Superman just rises up and just takes down Cyborg Superman. It's just a really strong, heroic moment. I think it's one of the most iconic Superman moments ever, in my opinion. One of my favorite moments, you know, where he comes back and he's like, you know, you've done wrong, Cyborg, and you gotta go. I don't know, I just love this book so much, you know. Like I said, for new readers, you know, I think you'd be a little lost. Just a little bit, you know. Um, but if you're more of a seasoned kind of reader, I think you could get into it, you know. And as for something else here too, I also got this trade, Superman Doomsday. They're also releasing this too with the books, that which is really cool in my opinion. This is stuff that comes after the death of Superman. Stuff with Doomsday after Death of Superman. And it's got one of my favorite Superman stories ever. I just hate the name of it. It's Superman Hunter / Prey. I hate the name of it, but I just love that story. I love it so much. There's a bunch of stories in this. It's got like the first time Doomsday comes back after the death of Superman. You know, and Superman has to face him on Apocalypse, and you know they teams up with gosh, I can't even. I don't even want to guess their names because I would totally get it wrong. But he has to team up with this time traveling group, and they end up putting Doomsday at the end of time because that's the only way to stop him, which I thought was so epic. And then Superman Hunter / Prey. You get Superman, you get Brainiac, you get Doomsday, and it's this great dynamic there with Brainiac and Doomsday. It just compels a story. That's also really good. And there's even other stuff in this trade too. I would say like if you guys could get a hold of this one, I think I would go for this one because I think there's more stuff in this trade than there is in the re-release that they're putting out. Now I don't know how much this one's going for. I don't know the price differences, what's in either or. You guys will probably have to do that for yourselves. But I would highly recommend that trade if you get a chance. So yeah, I guess my final thoughts on Death of Superman in conclusion. I just love that era of Superman, post-crisis Superman. You know, you got the John Byrne stuff. You've got, you know, the Death of Superman saga. You've got the Panic in the Sky. I mean, the mid 80s and 90s of Superman were just such a great time, you know? And it's one of those things where I really wish DC could kind of get back to, you know? I really do. It was such a creative time for Superman, you know? And I would love to see us kind of get back to it, you know? Maybe that's just me being a hardcore fan, but who knows? Death of Superman. An awesome time, man. Such an awesome time. All right, guys. I'll see you again. Bye, guys.